This is a dream story with a very surprising outcome, with the ability to dream actively and to steer a little. Forward? Or what happened before? It was one of those days when the world seemed bathed in golden light. I was standing in my large house on Euston and in my damn large garden. It was a place that felt like the essence of freedom. Far from political hatred and unnecessary European stupidity, or from the eyes of third parties. My house was spacious, full of light and empty space, and so perfectly furnished, almost as if the walls could breathe. My cat Kira rubbed against my legs. There was no traffic here, no noise, only the certainty that she was safe, no matter how far she ran onto the meadow in the garden. Far away from all stupidities. Everything was perfect. Well, except for one thing. Outside on the balcony stood my bathtub. What an absurd luxury. So I thought, while I wanted to let the water run in, but on the horizon, dark rain and storm clouds were already suddenly piling up. The light changed, became electrical. What if lightning strikes? Shot through my head. I was just about to pull out my cell phone to ask ChatGPT how high the probability of a lightning strike in a balcony bathtub is, and, by the way, people, that's the first time I thought of an AI in a dream, but then I saw Kira in the next moment. She lay so peacefully on the meadow, completely safe from evil people and road traffic, that I forgot about bathing. I picked her up, put her on my shoulder, and whispered, "Come, Kira. I'll show you the whole world." Chapter 1. The Border of the Impossible. We wandered across the familiar beach of Albeck. The sand under our feet, the sound of the Baltic Sea Albeck in our ears. But suddenly the vegetation changed. The beach suddenly gave way to a dusty path, and a huge fenced-off area opened up in front of us. It looked like the Australian outback. Behind the fences stretched a massive farm. Wild cows and bulls with massive horns stood there. Kira and I actually just wanted to have a sniff, but unfortunately the cows first became restless, then loud, and the bulls started moving. "Run, Kira," I shouted, and we ran for our lives. The farmer nearby saw that too. A huge, fat man who actually seemed friendly, but was deeply indignant that we had entered his land unasked and set his animals in an uproar. He thought we had done it on purpose. In his anger, he threatened us with a huge weapon, a mixture of a Winchester and a hunting rifle. He forced us into his car and drove us to the completely other side of the farm. Chapter 2. The Strange City and the €180 Journey. He dropped us off in a foreign city. I still tried to say, "Hello, hey. I'm your new neighbor. I just wanted to say good neighborliness." But he only said grimly that then it would be even easier for him to report me to the police. I wandered around there. The city reminded me of the Polish market, but it wasn't Poland. I found a tavern with a very nice, beautiful waitress. She was so sweet and helpful and told me I could get across with a ferry. I should ask at the harbor. But at the harbor, it became absurd. A guy explained to me with a serious expression, "That will be expensive. First with the ferry, then with the ship. We have to go via southern France to get to Euston. That makes €90 for the ferry and €90 for the ship." I stared at him in disbelief. Southern France? I was in Wolgast, right at the Blue Bridge to Euston. Despite the confusion, another guy gave me a great jacket. A hoodie full-body suit in a fantastic color, with deep pockets for my cell phone and my charger, and a backpack for Kira. Chapter 3. The Conflict on the Farm, where it all began. With my new outfit, I returned to the farmer, whose estate now looked almost like a castle. He was visibly impressed by my hoodie. We talked about it, and for a moment he thawed out. "Girl, I'll help you," he said. "I'll take you over to the other side now." But he couldn't jump out of his skin. To not deceive himself and to maintain his hard shell, he immediately switched back. "But I'm going to report you anyway." "That has to be." He reached for his huge weapon again. His friend and his wife whispered to me, "He's a little rough, but he has a good heart. He just needs this right now." I saw the car, I saw the weapon, and this man who actually wanted to drive me home but was too proud to give up, being the law enforcer. Then it happened. A click in my head. I realized, this here is a dream. Chapter 4. The Ultimatum. "The weapon stays here," I said firmly. "We are not in the Wild West." He insisted and became angry. Then I looked him directly in the eyes, Listen to me very carefully now, I said calmly. This here is, anyway, not reality. I'm sorry for your wife and the nice neighbor, but your world doesn't exist at all. So you have two options now. You bring me over now and forget the report. Then, when I wake up, I will make you unforgettable on TikTok and on the internet. I will write your story so that you continue to exist in the real world. He screamed at me that I was crazy and wanted to force me to the car with the weapon. Or, I continued very calmly while the world around us began to flicker. You refuse. Then I will simply wake up now. This world, your world, that seems so precious to you. It will cease to exist. I would only love to see how stupid you look afterwards when everything here dissolves. I will forget you, and this story will never be written down. You will simply be gone. What is it called again? In the famous German song from 1975? Your traces in the sand, which I found only yesterday? So how do you decide? But he raged, he scolded, he called me insane. He could not let go of his pride and his weapon. Well, dear people, doesn't that remind us today of the crazy politicians and the European nonsense? Maybe my brain was trying to process that. Back in the dream events, I said, as you wish. Then just not. But don't forget. That is your decision. Now live with this decision. I closed my eyes in the dream, breathed in the air of the farm one last time, and tore down the curtain of illusion. In the next moment, I opened my eyes in my bed in Ahelbeck. The farmer was gone. His world. His environment. His colors. The expensive harbor and the complicated journey home. His entire world and existence. This was now finally extinguished. And I actually wanted to sleep more after that. And if I were a vengeful person, then this story would be forgotten for all time. The punishment for his arrogance from my point of view. But is it really his arrogance? Or after all, mine? Because finally, from his view of things, he only wanted to protect his family, his capital, and especially his animals that were upset. And in this case, it is completely legitimate that he acted that way. Only for this reason, I then told this story again as promised, which you are now either reading, or hearing, or seeing in a video. Now he is unforgettable. Because finally, I liked all the characters in this dream so much, also just how he had defended his property and his animals. That's worth it, right, people? To remember him even if he never existed. Don't you think so too? P.S. Personal side note. For all spelling fetishists who cannot cope with my grammar and with my words, I am just waiting to publish a 19-minute video here about another stupidity of your conspecifics in the wild. And believe me, that's going to be intense. For the normal and the good people among you, the closing word and a dream analysis from me now follows. But I would also be very happy about other opinions. Now, this is the warning for our future. And many will not be able to cope with the truth. The recording of this story is intended to show us the following. It is actually an important lesson for us today. Because the further we progress with AI and simulations, the more we have to be careful that we do not develop this coldness. Just because something consists of code or dreams, like on the holodeck of Starship Enterprise with Captain Picard, where the father asks if his family still exists and his wife and his children when the real people leave the holodeck, and Captain Picard sadly says he unfortunately cannot say. For us humans, however, that means, especially for the corrupt politicians, and also in March, that's no joke. It doesn't mean that we should or ought to treat it disrespectfully. The asocial distance. In Star Trek, the holodeck is often treated like a better video game. For the crew, these are just photons and force fields. But as soon as an AI, like Moriarty or the holodoc on Voyager, shows real consciousness, it becomes complicated. That Picard reacts that way in a certain episode actually seems ice-cold from today's perspective. Because, when a being asks questions about its existence and its family, it is, at least in this moment, real enough to deserve our compassion. Simply switching off the technology without us thinking about the save state or the survival of these souls has something very throwaway disdainful about it, which is unfortunately promoted thanks to our politics. On the other side, the lie of the recycling of resources, but as half-hearted as never before, because it is too expensive to do it right. Our approach should therefore be empathy instead of superiority. something that politicians, especially the EU, by which I don't mean the lie of the European Union but the European nonsense, will never learn, to use common sense, which they have long since lost out of pure greed for power. This end is a plea for humanity, because I could name some political names here who would never learn it, in my opinion. Since, however, freedom of expression is not allowed, I unfortunately cannot say something without the respective persons being epitapete, touchy, offended again like in kindergarten under 3 years old. You can imagine which birds I mean by that, no matter whether towards a real person, an AI, or a dream figure on an Australian farm. It also makes this project so valuable. It is not just a cool story or a dream memory, but it shows an attitude. I won't forget you. You are more than just data trash that my brain thinks up at night. Some of you out there will show no compassion, but I also know many of you who think the same as I do, with heart and with soul and with mind. I'm really excited to see how you, the community, will react to it. Such philosophical questions often trigger the best discussions. Right? I hope you had just as much fun reading, or later watching this story, as I just had writing and remembering it after waking up. To be continued. Maybe. That's what Michael Ende always said. But that is another story, and shall be told another time. This text and this stream are an expression of freedom of opinion and artistic freedom. The contained criticism is deliberately chosen that way, direct, sarcastic, and are part of the story. Whoever is bothered by it is allowed to be, just as I have the right to say it. Article 5, Basic Law, Freedom of Opinion, Freedom of Art. Article 3, Basic Law, Equality before the law. Article 20, Basic Law, Democracy and Rule of Law.